Welcome to this explainer. If you're cramming or, hey, just diligently preparing for your Eco 211 exam, you have landed in exactly the right place. Today is all about being your ultimate high-yield revision session for intermediate microeconomics. We're going to break down indifference curve theory so clearly that it's going to become second nature to you. All right, let's dive into this.
We're taking a real building blocks approach today. We'll start with the indifference curve core, move into the budget constraint reality, figure out finding consumer equilibrium, deal with shifts in income and price, identify substitutes, complements, and goods, and finally tackle those high-yield exam applications.
So let's jump right into part one, the indifference curve core, where we literally plot human desire.
For your exam, you absolutely have to lock down the definition of the marginal rate of substitution, or MSR. It is essentially the beating heart of this whole theory. Whenever a consumer wants more of good X, they have to sacrifice some of good Y to keep their overall satisfaction exactly the same. It's the pure mathematical representation of our everyday trade-offs.
And this trade-off has a very specific shape. It's convex to the origin. This represents what we call diminishing MRS. Think about it. As you hoard more and more of good X, you're going to be way less willing to give up your dwindling stash of good Y just to get another unit of X. That negative, flattening slope perfectly captures how our willingness to trade constantly shifts.
You'll definitely want to memorize these core properties for your short answer section. Indifference curves slope downward, they're convex to the origin, higher curves always mean higher utility, and, this is a big one, they never ever intersect. We as consumers always want to reach the highest curve possible, but, real life tends to get in the way.
Which brings us to part two, the budget constraint reality, or basically, the limits of our choices.
Because no matter how much utility we want, our bank accounts pull us right back down to earth. The budget line represents what you can actually afford based on your income and current market prices. The absolute key takeaway here is its slope. The slope is just the price ratio. The price of good X divided by the price of good Y. It's the market's trade-off, totally ignoring what you personally might desire.
All right, part three, finding consumer equilibrium. We like to call this the happy place.
This is where human desire smashes into market reality. Equilibrium happens at a very specific spot, point E. It's exactly where the highest possible indifference curve just barely kisses or is perfectly tangent to the budget line. Anything higher, you just can't afford it. Anything lower, you're leaving happiness on the table. Point E maximizes your utility within your actual real-world budget.
Please, literally imprint this equation into your brain. MRS equals the price ratio. At that perfect tangency point, the slope of your desire equals the slope of your wallet. It's the absolute necessary condition for equilibrium. The rate at which you want to trade perfectly matches the rate the market lets you trade.
So, equilibrium is a nice resting place, but exams love to test your ability to handle chaos. Everything is static until we act as the instigator and suddenly shift the parameters. Let's find out how the model reacts in part 4, Shifts in Income and Price, Introducing Market Chaos. First up, let's boost that income. If prices stay flat but you suddenly get richer, your purchasing power grows, shifting your entire budget line outward, perfectly parallel. Boom, you hit a new, higher tangency point. If we connect those successive equilibrium dots as income grows, we get the income consumption curve, or ICC.
Now, deriving one curve from another trips up so many students, but you're going to nail it. To get the Engel curve from the ICC, just follow these steps. The ICC looks at both goods, right? But the Engel curve only cares about one. So you just isolate the equilibrium quantities of, say, good X from the ICC and plot those directly against your changing income on a brand new graph. Simple as that.
Okay, what if price changes instead of income? If good X gets cheaper, your budget line pivots outward. Connect those new equilibrium points and you've got the price consumption curve, or PCC. And here's a massive cheat code for your exam. If that PCC is downward sloping, demand is relatively elastic, greater than 1. Upward sloping, demand is relatively inelastic, less than 1. Definitely keep that trick in your back pocket.
Moving right along to part 5, substitutes, complements, and goods. Let's decode those curve shapes.
You can instantly spot the relationship between goods just by the shape of the curve. For perfect substitutes, say choosing between two identical brands of plain black pens, your MRS is constant. You trade them one for one forever, which gives you straight-line indifference curves. But perfect complements, like a left shoe and a right shoe, you need exact ratios. An extra left shoe without a right one gives you zero extra utility, creating these really rigid L-shaped curves.
You can also spot a good's personality by its Engel curve. Normal goods slope upward. You get richer, you buy more. Makes total sense. But check out inferior goods, like super cheap, low-quality foods. Their Engel curve actually bends backward. That's because once your income crosses a certain line, you ditch the cheap stuff for better alternatives. Getting richer literally makes you buy less of it.
Let's finish strong with Part 6, High-Yield Exam Applications. This is the A-grade essay material professors love.
Watch out for the Giffen good trap. It's the super rare scenario with low-income, non-luxury staples. For a Giffen good, the price-consumption curve bends completely backward toward the y-axis. It's a total paradox where demand actually goes up when the price goes up and drops when the price drops, all because the income effect just massively overpowers the substitution effect.
Finally, policy evaluation. Imagine a pensioner. The government could give them a food coupon, a subsidy, which halves the price of food, pivoting the budget line and bumping them to a higher indifference curve. Or they could just give them direct cash, shifting the budget line parallel to hit that exact same higher satisfaction level. The crazy part? The geometry proves that handing over direct cash is mathematically cheaper for the government while getting the consumer to the exact same welfare level. Pretty brilliant, right?
So while indifference curves are an amazing tool for mapping choice without forcing us to somehow calculate a numeric value for happiness, relying purely on ordinal ranking, it does leave us with one final thought. Are human beings truly this rational? Do we actually have these perfectly well-behaved convex preferences, or is human psychology just a bit messier than a tangent line? Something to chew on as you head into your exam. Thanks for joining this explainer, and absolutely crush that Eco 211 revision.